All right. Welcome to the next in our series. Tonight, we're going to be talking about getting back in the fight. So with our foundation is the move, fight, recover formula. Looking at that 4 coactive model, simplifying it, and make sure you're focusing on health. So get back in the fight. Main premise, you still will have your move, fight, recover kind of system here. So we want to move well often to get out of pain. So a lot of guys are beat up. They need to get that cleaned up so that way they can get out pain, which is going to improve your quality of life and your longevity. So you actually feel better when you're older and retired. The next step is fight for less than 20% body fat. This is the big key, and there's a lot of kind of metrics to this. So it's really hard to do a pull-up when you have a bunch of extra weight. For example, it's hard to sprint when you have a bunch of extra weight. But on the other side, I've heard a lot of the hormonal experts say that if you have more than 20% body fat as a male, so these are male standards, that even if you were to do TRT, it's not going to have the effect you're probably expecting. So we really want to get below that 20% body fat is really what we want to fight for first. 8 to 12% should be the end goal. 6 to 17% is acceptable depending on age, etc. And same with the lower end. So the lower end, you could get down to 6%, but you're not going to be probably doing a lot of long range recon type stuff. And then recover with high quality sleep and stress environmental management. So moving into the strategy for movement is your joint mobility, your mobility of getting into positions, which then moves into movement, you're crawling, you're moving around obstacles, which then should get into some type of sprint, run, bike, locomotion, things like that, any kind of locomotion. Specifically, we want to get into sprinting at some point. Obviously, you're getting back in the fight. That's going to take a little bit. Not a big deal. We'll get there at some point, and then eventually you can transfer those sprinting skills and those locomotion skills and all that movement stuff into your actual technical skills. So how do we get the 20% body fat? We want to focus it. So I've used the Alan Cosgrove fat loss hierarchy here. Steps 1 and 2 are nutrition. In his model, I've added that the health component kind of goes along with that. So we want to make sure we're looking at sleep, stress, environment, kind of all that good stuff that's going into what you could call holistic health, performance, etc. After that, you're looking at some type of metabolic resistance training for the first 3 hours of the week. So whatever training hours you have, you want the first 3 are going to be some kind of metabolic resistance training. What does this look like? This is more kind of a functional training with short rest periods, probably some hypertrophy, etc. It's not straight bodybuilding. It's not straight functional training. It's kind of this faster paced, just weight training. If you have more hours, so now you've got up to 5 hours per week to train, you're going to add in some HIIT. These are not very fun. Typically, your HIIT sessions aren't very long, so most people aren't going to hit 2 hours a HIIT realistically. After that, if you still have training hours, you have, say, 6 hours of train a week, you can add in aerobic intervals. And then if you have additional hours, up to 8 hours per week, you can add in high-intensity aerobic training. The zone 2 cardiac output is zone 2 is kind of the word du jour right now. Pretty much any training you can do as you're able to do without injury and or doesn't detract from everything else. Preferably, if you're just going to do like running for zone 2 for an hour, you probably want to hold that off until you've cleaned up everything else. But if you're out walking and just kind of doing generic stuff, not a big deal to add it in, as long as you're getting the main chunks in first. If you follow that formula, the chances of you getting in better shape, getting in better health, dropping down below 20% body fat at some point is pretty high. It's pretty hard to do all of that without getting below that 20% mark, especially if you're getting the nutrition in line. Pretty easy, honestly, especially for guys. Ladies have a little bit more problems with it. It's a little bit slower process, but in general, this is just a pretty good process. Use this on a lot of people. And recovery. So recover with the high quality sleep and stress management. That is the getting back in the fight kind of process and the formula. So that is it for this week, and we will do one next week.